Michigan State football is off to its best start since 2015. Nebraska's starting off pretty disappointing in a certain sense. I thought they'd mature defensively. I thought they'd go on to, maybe finally get in a bowl this year. And they're 2-2, honestly, which I mean is the same 50% win percentage that you'd have if you're 6-6. But I thought they'd beat Illinois. Did not expect them in their current state to compete this much with Oklahoma. I don't know what to say. Nebraska here, really disappointing. This game here is the difference between saving Scott Frost's job and potentially going bowling, or Nebraska, in all honesty, going 4-8. I don't see with Nebraska's schedule. You play Michigan State. If that's a loss, I see another win against Northwestern and Purdue. I don't see, if you're losing to Michigan State, I don't see how you're beating Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Iowa. I just don't see it. You have 5 ranked teams on your schedule. And at Minnesota, they're playing like a team that could be ranked, in all honesty. So your schedule's really hard. If you win this game, in my opinion, there's some potential for you to going bowling, and potentially Scott Frost, we finally see some critical improvement, if you know what I mean. But Michigan State has somewhat of a different story. Michigan State, it's critical that they win. It's always critical for the, team to win. However, Michigan State here, they lose this game. All they have to do with how they've been playing so far is to go back to the drawing board. Michigan State, this is supposed to be the rebuilding year. And granted, now that you've started 3-0 and are in the top 20, if you fall off and collapse, you're going to be on a hotter hot seat than if you just started out pretty mediocre. That's just how it'll be, really, in all honesty. But if you win this game, you can enter the Michigan game undefeated. You beat Nebraska, you'll beat Western Kentucky, and at Rutgers and at IU, you might go 1-1 there, but still, I'd say you'd enter the Michigan game anywhere from 6-1 to 7-0. That's a pretty realistic possibility. You lose this game, you have to go back to the drawing board, but you still probably beat Western Kentucky, and there's still a good chance you go 50 for Rutgers and at IU. I'd say no matter what, barring a complete and total collapse, you enter the Michigan game with a winning record and probably receiving some votes as well in the polls. But that's just kind of the gig here. I'd say that's kind of the background, excluding the players, which we will talk about here. But Michigan State's really impressed me. That win against Miami, beating the U by 21 points in their own home. And granted, I believe it was nearly tied at some point. It was 17-14. Miami really collapsed in the fourth. They had 4 total turnovers. They matched the amount of yards MSU had, each having around 450. Michigan State in the end just rolled past Miami, and Payton Thorne looked better than De'Aaron King. Granted, King was hurt, which severely inhibited Miami's ability to get a lead and gain momentum. But Michigan State's really impressed me, honestly. Beat Northwestern by 17, beat Youngstown by 28, beat Miami by 21. They have yet to face a team that has challenged them in all 4 quarters. It's amazing. They totally deserve their ranking. They totally deserve being ranked number 20. And honestly, look like a 7-9 win football team right now. And I'm more so leaning toward the 8-9 win football team. I only leave 7 in there because Rutgers, Maryland, Michigan, and Penn State, like 4 other teams besides Michigan State, are undefeated, and all have had other impressive aspects or other factors. And Ohio State, they're not undefeated, but they have some dangerous attributes, and Indiana by far looks the worst, but still, you never know with Tom Allen. So the Big Ten East looks to be very competitive, and this game here I think will be an important judge for that, because I'd say Nebraska, looking at how they played against Oklahoma, looking at how Martinez so far looks to be somewhat improved, I would say, just somewhat. If you can beat Nebraska, you should beat Rutgers and Indiana and Western Kentucky. You should get 7 to 8 wins, if not 9, if you can beat the Cornhuskers, in all honesty. The Cornhuskers are obviously led by Martinez as quarterback, and he is also their leading rusher. Martinez has over 1,300 total yards of offense, completes 65.7% of his passes. Every pass completed goes for an average of 10 yards. That's pretty good. He has a 68 long pass, 5 touchdowns passing, 1 interception. He has been sacked 11 times, though. Nebraska's O-line is its ultimate weakness. Michigan State had some defenders, notably a defensive end, out for the Miami game. So if they can have them back, that will be huge. If they don't, you would rather sack Martinez than have him annoyingly scramble around you, which you prevented with King, but we still don't know until we see the game itself. That's what I've learned about this year. And that's what the beauty about football is. You never know until the game happens. And as a Michigan fan, that's important, because trying to prevent my own team from getting too arrogant and hyped up, as a Michigan fan, it's kind of what we want to do. I don't want my own team to think of themselves as invincible. And the Spartans won't entering Nebraska. Mel Tucker is not a coach to feed his players arrogance. He just doesn't strike me as that guy. And that's a good thing for Michigan State football. It's a thing that they've been lacking, I think, in the last 2 to 3 years of D'Antonio, where D'Antonio just believed that his schemes were truly superior to everyone else's, when, newsflash, they weren't. So, good for Sparty. And Sparty is led by Payton, Thorne, and Kenneth Walker. Payton Thorne passed for 726 yards, completed 62.3% of his passes, goes for about 9 yards per pass complete, which is pretty similar to Martinez, both impressive numbers. He has a long pass of 85, which went for a touchdown. He has 9 passing touchdowns, no picks. Half the sacks Martinez does. Granted, Martinez has played an extra game, but still translates to less sacks than Martinez. He also has a better rating than Martinez does, a 180 QB rating to a 166 QB rating. And Payton Thorne getting the start over Anthony Russo. I said this in my Michigan State video, I think, a while ago. You start Russo, season's kind of over before it begins. You start Thorne, you have a chance of going bowling. And starting Thorne here really is probably one of the best decisions Mel Tucker has made, if not the best, that he's made at Michigan State. Kid has potential. He showed it in the 2020 game against Penn State. And now here he is, balling out. He also has 51 rushing yards and a touchdown on the ground. He even scrambled for over 20 yards at one point, I believe, against Miami. Like one singular 20-yard scramble. That's amazing. You haven't had a quarterback like that since Connor Cook, and he was pretty good in college. And Kenneth Walker has 493 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns, averages 8.6 yards per carry. You know, he reminds me, actually, Kenneth Walker III does, he reminds me of a Michigan running back that I very well know and love. He reminds me of Blake Corum. Blake Corum, man, absolute beast, averages 8.5 yards a carry, and he has 7 total touchdowns on the year. 407 rushing yards compared to Walker's, 493. 7 touchdowns rushing to Walker's 5, and I think he has a receiving touchdown too, along with 50 receiving yards, to which Kenneth Walker has none. Actually, 17 yards and a touchdown as well. So I like Kenneth Walker in a similar way to as much I like Blake Corum. Kenneth Walker might be the best running back in the Big Ten. And on defense, the Spartans are led in tackles and interceptions by Xavier Henderson, the safety. Nebraska's led by Nick Henrich at linebacker in tackles, 30, and Deontay Williams, safety, in interceptions, in which he has 2. Nebraska's had problems kicking. Connor Culp, Nebraska's kicker, has only made 81% of his field extra point attempts and has only made 37% of his field goal attempts. He seems to be good from the 20-29 range, but he is poor from anywhere from 30 onward. He's made 1 from 50, 51 is his long. He's missed 1 from 50, missed 1 from the 40s range, and missed 3 from the 30s range. So they have a special teams problem. Nebraska has a very known special teams problem that I will admit to. Michigan State, I don't really know the whole gig with their special teams necessarily, but Coughlin's better with extra points. He's been 100% on those, and he has a slightly higher field goal percentage, 40%. Made 1 in the 20s, made 1 in the 30s, missed 1 there too, and also missed 2 from more than 50 yards. His long so far is 37. Coughlin has been there for a while, though. He was there with some of D'Antonio's teams. Michigan State as a team scores an average of 39.9 points a game, compared to Nebraska scoring, they don't score nearly that much at all. 29.5 points a game. So a 10-point difference here. Nebraska has, granted, played that extra game, but they've played, so far, a pretty similar schedule, if I was to say so myself. Nebraska also facing off against Michigan State. Nebraska allows 15.8 points a game. Michigan State allows 17.3. So this matchup, I think, will be interesting. Michigan State and Nebraska just seem to be a little bit similar when it comes to stats, but Michigan State so far has more than impressed me. I feel really good about this Michigan State team. I think they'll beat Nebraska, but it's better to not overlook this team, and we'll see what happens. I hope Michigan State gets the win. I think they will. I think they'll beat Nebraska by more than 5, and this will likely be the final sign for Nebraska as a football team to hang the hat on Scott Frost. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and comment your thoughts down below. Who do you think wins this game? Does Nebraska have a really good chance to pull off the upset here, or do you think Michigan State's pretty safe until or even after the Michigan game? Let me know down below. Again, like, subscribe, join this awesome community. It's just that simple. Big Ten Power Ranking video coming out tomorrow. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you around.